you.
But we got to let it hook up. So, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to play the intro real quick and let people come in.
Awesome. Yeah.
Be right back. What's happening, everybody? We got our beautiful, beloved sister Anouk is in the house with us. Did I say that right? Yes, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Wow, I got somebody's name right. Today is International Women's Day. How appropriate is that?
Super appropriate.
Isn't it? I know in my little existence, I've been watching it in myself and in everybody around me. This feminine, the goddess energy, the mother energy affecting everybody, like the moon affects the ocean, right? And so now that, today is a very powerful day, I can feel it. And we have 4 shows today, and it's International Women's Day. So I don't know how it's going in Turkey, which is, to me, is something like the motherland, I mean, some of these things that they're finding over there, like Göbekli Tepe or whatever, Göbekli Tepe, and a couple other things I've seen over there where they're finding stuff that's like 10, 12,000 years old.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so much rich history here.
Yeah. Yeah. So how you been doing? How's we haven't talked in a long time, but I guess we could just stick to 2021. Has it been real easy and graceful for you like it has been for everybody else? No problems, nothing coming up?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. No, I mean, in all fairness, I'm pretty balanced nowadays, and I have been pretty much going into this year. So everything that comes my way, I kind of accept it with lots of grace. I'm grateful for it and just work with it. So, I mean, 2020 has been pretty cool for me as well, although I don't want to go back too much to that year. But yeah, lots of opportunities coming my way at the moment. Lots of really great people reaching out, connecting. It's beautiful. I mean, 2021 has been awesome for me, even though I realized a lot of people it has not been.
Really? And so are you a practitioner? Do you work with people? Do you do sessions with people?
Not anymore. So I've kind of stopped all of that, and definitely no kind of physical work anymore. That's something that I did up to 2020. For this year, what I do is I only give support via Zoom and via the telephone, etc., and only to a very small group of people nowadays.
So you're doing the work, you're just doing it online.
Yeah.
And so
I've kind of narrowed it down a little bit to kind of focusing on what I need to focus on and what comes on my path. And there's been a lot of shadow work that I've been asked to do for myself and for my own lineage. So I've been very, very focused on that, and only not so much kind of reaching out and putting myself out there anymore, but just letting people come to me when it's the right time.
Wow. So you've been getting a lot of personal stuff that you're working through. Have you gotten any, do you have any bead on the collective, like where we're at on the collective, like what's happening? Do you ever get that type of intel?
Not anymore. I used to up until 2020. And nowadays, things have really kind of changed for me because where I used to be on social media and news networks, etc., and talking to people a lot about what was going on in their reality in different countries, nowadays I'm really keeping my focus so much on my own little kind of universe and the people in that. So I'm shutting out all of the white noise that seems to be going on around the collective, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What about the people that you've been working with in sessions? Are you seeing any change in what's going on with them? I talked to a lady last week, Kirsty Elizabeth. She's pretty high frequency like you. And one of the things she told me, she said that a lot of men were coming to her and they were very confused. Like, what the hell's going on? Where are my balls? What happened to them? I woke up this morning, I don't have balls anymore. What have you noticed?
I mean, I'm still seeing a lot of women, so it's not so many men that are reaching out at the moment. But maybe that's also perhaps because of the culture in the country that I'm in. So in Turkey, I mean, Turkey is quite a couple of decades behind when it comes to feminism and equality and men and women in the way that they interact with one another and the respect they have for one another. And so what I'm seeing here is, especially the area that I'm living in, it used to be very kind of not go for anyone for a woman to get divorced. And so divorce was very much frowned upon. And I'm a woman, I'm a divorced woman. And so, but I'm also foreign in this country. So it was a little bit more accepted. But since last year, a lot more women have been getting divorces or,
really?
Choosing to divorce from their most violent husbands. A lot of domestic abuse still happening here.
Wow.
And so, the majority of the women that I work with tend to be coming from that kind of background, where they're really trying to find themselves and really trying to find their own way in a community that is only now starting to really understand that divorce is okay and it's okay for a woman to venture out on her own.
And choose herself. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, energetically, it sounds like energetically that you're seeing the physical manifestation of the feminine stepping into her power. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be crazy in a country like that because it is old school. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as severe, I don't think, as some of the countries in the Middle East, but it's still, that's a big country. There's a lot of different sects, that make up the religious and the otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's got to be. Is it something that they're talking about in the press over there, like the local press, so that there's a rise in women, stepping into their power?
Well, I don't follow the press anymore, and the press is a very interesting thing here in Turkey because I don't think that everything that comes out in the press here is necessary. You can take that for what it is necessarily what I would deem to be truth. So there's a lot of spin, there's a lot of made up stuff. And so I pay no attention to that. But what I do see is the women here locally stepping very much into their power and kind of looking to women that have gone through divorce and to reach out to them for support. So, Turkey is a country where women normally seek their support from their family, but in the case of divorce, they're not always supported by their family. And so they're now reaching out to other women that have walked that path before them.
Yeah. It sounds like they're taking on the template of what we might call the star seed of the light worker, that steps into their power, and they're estranged from the family and estranged from society, and they, I mean, it's a good sign though. God, you would have to think,
yeah,
you would have to think that, another few more months of that type of, manifestation would have an impact, like a visible impact on society over there. It would just make sense.
I also think it's it's going to have a huge impact on the kids here as well, because the kids that were growing up with parents or in an abusive home situation are kind of shown that, okay, this is not okay, and it's okay for one parent to leave the other parent when the situation becomes poisonous or dysfunctional or harming.
Yeah.
I
think. No, I was going to say. I think that you have. Do you have a child at home or children?
Yeah, one.
I thought. Okay, that's what I thought. God, I actually have a pretty good memory. I can't believe that. Yeah, I remember seeing a couple of pictures because I'm not real good with names, although I should remember yours because it's very unique. And but anyway, I saw you a couple of pictures, and I was like, oh, we need to get her back on. But so how old is your daughter? How old is she? Like 10?
She's going to turn 13 next. This
13.
month actually. Very much now.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! No wonder you're having such a wild ride. 13.
Oh yes. We're all in the teenage years now.
Yeah. I had almost 3 years in my early awakening as a single parent with two young ladies. My two youngest, they were like 11, 12, 13. So they were coming right into that womanhood.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm waking up, and meeting Morgan and just learning about the divine feminine and living with these two forces of nature that are both giving you 5D messages, and then in the 3D reality, you're having to extract yourself from being the dad and being, the parent, and So has that been a challenge for you?
Oh yeah, I mean it's been super interesting for me because there are moments where kind of I hear my mother coming out of my mouth to my daughter.
Right.
Yeah, and those are the moments where I go, oh, okay, this is old patterning that can be that we can let go of now.
Yeah.
I mean, she is amazing. She is very, very wise, and so I'm very much letting her kind of take the lead in this relationship. And to let her teach me rather than me trying to be the parent and pretending that I know what is right for her. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I kind of took that path after quite a bit of resistance, about a year. And then I felt the way that you just stated, but I didn't say it to them. I didn't say that to them. I wasn't going to try to explain that to them. But what I did do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can definitely have conversations with her. So, and I've told her I think in the middle of last year, I said to her, well, I honestly don't have a clue what I'm doing as a parent. So we're going to have to work it out together somehow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, my youngest is 18. She'll be 19 next month. And she's very bright. And, traditionally here, you would get out of high school. So she's been out almost a year. Of course, with COVID, that kind of changed some things. But so you go to school, you go to college and you get a degree, the old game. So she decided that she wasn't going to go. And she decided that she was going to live on her own terms. And I mean, she's not even 19 years old, has her own apartment, and is taking this unconventional path because she wants to be a movie director, writer, director, producer. And I don't know how she worked this out, but she found two people. One of them makes documentaries and produces or directs movies. And she's like her assistant, her personal assistant. She gets like $300 for a day. Like, what? What are you doing? Well, I just do whatever she tells me to. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's so interesting watching her manifest everything. Yeah. And it's unconventional you know, based on the past templates, and actually seeing that magic work. That's the kind of things that I was learning from them in little aspects, like you were talking about. You know, you learn from just like observing them and allowing that energy just to flow. That's what I learned. That was the biggest thing I learned, was just get out of their way. And my house was a mess. Okay. You know, because I was in that whole thing about, you need to clean up and pick up your underwear and clean the bath. And they just wouldn't do it. And finally, I just put my hands in the air and I said, okay, fine. I'm just going to let this thing go. And I'm not going to either. And yeah, it got a little bit cluttered, but the energy changed totally. It's so amazing. You allow a soul to run free.
Yeah.
Whether it's a child or, you know, whatever. And it's amazing. Yeah.
I love what you're saying about the whole manifestation thing, because I'm seeing exactly the same with my daughter as well. So her name is Nova. And she decided during the summer of last year that she wanted to be an actress. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, everything is shut down. I don't know how you're going to do it, but hey, I'll give you all my support. And she basically sent some people messages on through social media, and she got a couple of gigs, right? At the age of 12. And you just kind of go, wow. I mean, there was nothing I had to do apart from drive her there and take her back, etc., and chaperone her. But she literally set up her own gigs and just got it to work. And you know,
that's amazing.
I was not that far when I was 12. I mean, I'm only just in the past couple of years working how this manifestation works.
Yeah, it's crazy because we had such and I talked about this on another show, but we had such a visual of that in real time. We went down to my hometown, and there was a little family gathering, and there was my two sons who were like 25 and 26, and my nephew who's about the same age. And it was so interesting because at one point, 2 or 3 of my cousins had my son pinned up against the wall, and they were like, because he's got a fiance, you need to make sure you have your babies before 30, and like just giving them all the standard programming. And Morgan, which was a shocker, Morgan walked up to him and goes, you know, you're just projecting your unconscious programming given to you by your parents and your ancestors onto him.
Boom.
And then, right, boom, right. And one of the three cousins, she stopped and she goes, you're right. And then she's following Morgan around the rest of the night. But yeah, but it was so cool because later on we talked about it. There were some other things that happened. Morgan started talking about how this nephew of mine told everyone at the table, Morgan Lee, which he doesn't normally do stuff like that. She started telling them how he was special and he was a starseed. He wasn't weird and he wasn't different and he didn't need help. He was a starseed, a Blu-ray that had come here to align things and heal things in the family line that nobody else could. And you should have seen these kids, not just my nephew, but my two sons, just beaming like, wow, somebody's finally getting it. You know what I mean? So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, these kids are really changing everything, aren't they?
Yeah. They're so far ahead. And that's why I'm kind of letting her guide me rather than me trying to guide her. Because I honestly have no clue what I'm doing as a parent. Hands up. Like, you know, I'm just trying to work out my own programming and my own shadows, etc. And so, you know, I need all the help I can get. And she's awesome. I mean, the stuff that she comes up with sometimes, and where she snaps me out of old programming like that. I'm just so good.
That's so I was going to say humiliating, but it's not. Humbling would be a better
No,
word.
it's humbling. Totally humbling.
I get that one big time. Yeah, big time. Like when they catch you, I remember, because it kind of started for me when I went on the streets when I first woke up, and when my son was 16, and he technically was living with me, but I didn't have a place, so we would hook up every couple, you know, like say twice a week in a hotel. And I remember one time I just started screaming. I was like, you don't understand. Da, 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 da. And he just sat there. And then when I was done, he goes, are you done? And I felt like this big, you know? And then the other thing he said to me, I'll never forget, because it was a tough time, like a lot of us have gone through. And I said to him, "It's going to be okay." And he said, "Dad, it's always okay." And I went, "Oh my God."
How much
like,
right?
you know,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I'm loving this. I'm loving being a parent as well. I mean, I had a period where I wasn't with my daughter. When I got divorced, one of the ways that I got my ex-husband to agree to having a divorce was to sign my daughter over and sign custody over to him. And so I had 3 years of not being with her, and but with a lot of hard work and perseverance, she's now living with me again.
yeah,
And my relationship with my ex-husband is very friendly now because,
wow,
yeah, it's pretty awesome. And this all kind of developed more over 2020, when we were kind of forced to have to live together for a short period of time. And I was really kind of tested on, how awake I was and how much I'd learned from the past and from my
wow.
mistakes. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big statement, and that's what I was actually going to ask you that next, in regard to like your microcosmic experience with with this, what would you call it? Well, with the feminine stepping into her power, obviously puts a certain amount of good stress on the masculine. You know what I mean? Like they're not just going to go through it and nothing's going to happen. They can't go back to the old. Oh, I'll
No.
go find one that will live under the
Yeah.
old conditions, because it's not happening. It's nothing there to support them. But so how did, like in your experience, how did you get from that point? Because I know, because I've been there, the acrimony, and the viciousness. How do you get from there to being on equitable terms with your ex? How did that happen?
I mean, it wasn't an overnight situation, and I mean, in the beginning of the divorce, we hardly had any contact whatsoever because he was very angry, and I'd very much hurt his ego, and so stepping out of that marriage for him was an unforgivable act.
Yeah.
And so I would say it took me about 6 months probably after the divorce to realize that I did not want my daughter growing up with a situation where her parents were not on speaking terms or kind of hated each other.
Yeah.
So I come from a broken home. I come from divorced parents, and so mine was very traumatic. The way I grew up with my parents, and so that was not something I wanted to give to her. And I mean, my awakening didn't happen until 2.5 years ago, and that was the biggest change of all, because I learned to face and take responsibility for everything that I'd created up until that point. And it wasn't easy, but even the problems that arose in the marriage, I was very partially responsible for. And I'm so happy to take all responsibility because I don't. And so, so I really made a conscious effort to come back and to spend time with him and spend time with her, even though he did not want to see me or was very vicious to me or aggressive and shouting. And, I just let that all wash over, not take it personal, and just let it all come out. And by me not reacting in any way, but still kind of showing up as me and being kind and, being kind to our daughter, over time, that just completely dissolved.
So you use that which you learned from her, which is
Yes.
that, because that to me describes what I learned from my daughters and my son. Was like I used to have this routine. Every Friday, they would come home from school before the weekend goes, before the weekend and all their social activity. And I would sit stand in the kitchen, and I would make tacos, and I would lecture them. And I would pace up in front of them back and forth, and I would go on, and and inspire them, or at least I thought I was, and you know, and admonish them, and then when I was done, they would just look at me, and because they were being respectful, they wouldn't go, "Okay, are you done now?" They wouldn't say that, which was even worse, because then you're standing there, and all of that goo is on you, right?
Yeah.
So I can just see how I can't really, because I haven't been a woman. I've had, as we all have, had to stand in the face of somebody really projecting on you. But wow, did that take a lot for you to be able to not push back as you had before? Because we all did, right?
Yep.
I mean, did you literally have to like bite your tongue and just like be like, you know, or were you just
breathe
okay.
was key for me, just breathing,
Yeah.
because my old response, I mean, in my youth, I've also been in abusive situations. And so I was very used to kind of, you know, holding my breath, tensing up, and then if I could run away or back into a corner. And so my automated response when he would get angry or when there would be a tense situation was to really tense up and kind of hold my breath and kind of be ready in that fight or flight mode. And so just breathing and connecting with my body and seeing what reactions and emotions would come up for me was real key for me, to no longer respond. And as soon as I stopped responding, then the game was over.
Right, exactly. Like you know, that whole thing about getting the last word in. It does nothing. It does nothing but perpetuate the old energy. But so you feel like you woke up 2.5 years ago in the this would have been after you left, right? And so you're applying all this stuff, and then like in terms of what we're talking about, like have you seen the effect on him? Like, I mean, in other words, has he said, "Hey, I think I'm different," or like has he like admitted to things, or I mean, how has that gone down? Has he been open about that?
No, and I mean, one thing that that I consciously do is I don't talk about the past, because it holds no weight for me. So so we don't do that. He also is not interested in that. But I mean, you know, for example, today is International Women's Day. He actually bought me a plant. Now, that is something.
That says it all right there. That says it all right there.
So, so you know, and it's not a present out of the idea of like, oh, perhaps we'll get together, or oh, I have to make something good or right, or it was literally just okay, I know she likes a plant. She's doing a great job looking after our daughter. I'm gonna buy her a plant. So you know, it's a very small act, but for me, actually, it means a lot.
Well, I think that says it all, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be stated all the time, but and I think maybe that's one of the things that because I've been real tuned in, or you know, really wanting to be a part of exploring this hidden masculine, right? The hidden masculine, the divine masculine, and I think obviously, even though we tended to talk a lot, we didn't say a lot because the really important things we had a trouble saying, right? And I think maybe that, like for instance, in this case with the plant, that's like a good sign, because it like shows you the trajectory. So maybe the next thing is, you know, stating what he was stating with, you know, with the offering. Wow, it's getting interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally loving it, because if you would have told me 3 years ago that, you know, that this would be the situation and that we would be on these kind of good terms, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought, nah, that's impossible. And here we are, you know, having a pretty good, friendly relationship, for whatever you can call it that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so, and I see that ripple through our environment and through our community as well. So I live in a very small community, and, you know, I've had several women come up to me and have open conversations about, okay, going through divorce or having just recently been divorced, how did you get to this place, and how do you do it? And also there's a lot of curiosity about, why are you guys not back together? Because you seem to be on good terms, which is another kind of very interesting thing for this community here.
Yeah, that is interesting. It really is. And I mean, like in taking someone like your ex-spouse, did you have like exercises where you like brought him into a meditation or pulled him up in front of you or had conversations, or was it more of just working on yourself, or both, I guess?
I did very much both. I would say that 99% of the work was on me, and I would say that 1% was where I did exercises like bring him into the light of God. So I use some of the tools and the exercises in the courses that Jason Estes gives through his MTVO platform. And so, working with the light of God was immensely powerful, and I still do it. I still use it on a daily basis for myself and the people that I get in contact with.
Yeah. You mean the people that make you uncomfortable?
No, pretty much anyone.
Oh, you mean, okay, I got you.
Yeah, anyone. I mean, it's for me, I've been someone previously where I've very quickly got out of balance, either when I got very excited about a new friendship or a situation or something that was said or something that was done. And so I find that working with the light of God really helps me to just stay in my own power and my own kind of neutral field rather than be affected by other people's astral plane.
Yeah. The reason I asked is because I spent a long time, I still do it from time to time, but I spent a long time pulling up people. I would literally go to their news feeds, to their pages, so I could look at their face, and until I could get to the highest level of equilibrium that I could, and then eventually it kind of fell away. But I think there's a lot more people acknowledging the effects that the self work, the shadow work, the zero pointing, the effects that it's having, that you can see and touch and feel, right?
Yeah.
Like in their life, like with your ex and with your daughter.
Yeah. And I'm also seeing, I'm seeing the effect it has on my daughter as well, because to her, this is a very normal family situation now. Mum lives somewhere different. I live with mum, and dad lives somewhere different, and he occasionally visits, and I get to spend time with him whenever I want. It's I know that maybe in Europe or America or wherever it's fairly acceptable for these situations, but here it's very unusual.
You're a trailblazer.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and that's another thing too, is these individual situations and experiences and expansions that we have through taking our power back, so to speak. How much it affects the whole. I mean, it just looks like one lady with a 13-year-old daughter and an ex that's having this experience in Turkey, but it's actually affecting the entirety. And I think that these effects that are occurring as a result of the empowerment are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and more visible. And I mean, think about the impact that's having, what that says, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I've definitely seen him change as well. And, he's recently entered a new relationship, which he's pretty serious about. And so I'm absolutely sure that whatever course this relationship is going to take, that it's going to have a positive effect on the way he is with her as well, rather than coming into that new relationship with all the baggage of things that have happened before.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so, like in terms of, because I'm sure you dealt with this, I dealt with it, we've all dealt with it. I think a lot of light workers, people that would say they're light workers, with the whole waking up and then you become abnormal. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people throwing rocks at you. How do you
Yeah.
deal with that? How have you dealt with that type of thing? The type of thing where you don't um, you know you don't discredit or uh, consider them inferior. You just don't have anything to do with them anymore, but you have to kind of do it in a very in a spirit of equality to the best you can. I mean, I don't know, what's it been like for you? Did you have difficulty disengaging? Was it a evolution? Did you tell them to F off and then later on you're able to be a little bit more peaceful? I mean, how did that work for you?
Yeah, no, I haven't told anyone to F off. I've kind of just, but, it's never too late though. But no, I haven't kind of felt the need to do that. But I have definitely, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that don't get me anymore, because the person that I was and the person that I am now, to them, it's two completely different people,
Wow.
which is true. And so they don't get me, and so they don't know how to approach me, or and I've consciously separated myself, or created some distance, to give the space to let them get to know me as that I am now. And some people are just not interested in that. Some people are. Some people are curious. But it hasn't been hard for me, to be honest with you. I've kind of just let everything go. I just let everything go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lot of people are starting to come into what we used to call, your mission or your missions. Like what do you do with your time? Like a lot of people are talking about how they're starting to understand, maybe not with perfect clarity, but they're starting to head the direction of what their service will be, basically, as part of the transformation. Now, you said yours occurred 2.5 years ago. Have you had any kinds of downloads like that, like where what you're going to be doing?
I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but I had that before. Up until the middle of 2020, I had that very much, and I could call intel in. And I've stopped doing that, basically because I kind of feel it's a bit of a spoiler. So I'm very much kind of living a more adventurous lifestyle now, where I open up and I create space for opportunities and people to come in, and whatever comes my way, whatever I feel excited about, I just play with that, whatever that is. And I find that a lot more fun than kind of, sitting in meditation and getting the intel in of where it is that I'm supposed to be, or what it is that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning about Soulogy Fest and the Soulogy Network. And it was very much, I think, like, for instance, the way she talked about it, the way Morgan talks about it, the way I've experienced it is it's organic. For me, it has to occur in a natural process. You can't force it. And at the same time, there's this different type of like high level intel in the moment all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's really weird because it like for me, I don't look at, like, we're having a Soulogy Fest end of May. That's about as far as I can look. And even that, I have to be present with it in the moment to get anything done with it. It's really weird. But I get what you're saying. I've heard other people say very similar things too in the last year, which has been, they've said it different ways. They've said it like, oh my God, it got turned off. I don't know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or where did everybody go? Kind of thing. But I really feel like, for me anyway, that's what I see happening is it's not looking out there, and certainly we're not looking back anymore, but it's not looking out there so far out there that it takes you out of the present, because the present seems to be where you get the highest level intel, and it's a different type of intel. It's more of an instinct and a feeling, which way do I go? Which way do I go? And it pretty much presents itself. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, I definitely see and hear things before they happen, but there is not a huge gap between it anymore. So, you know, the instances of someone calling me, that will happen a couple of minutes before. So it's not a 4 hours before, but you just, or a song comes on and it reminds you of someone and that person calls. And, you know, these kind of synchronicities are happening a lot. So I see some intel beforehand, but I don't purposely call it in anymore.
Yeah. I was laughing because that your sister over here, it's the same way, like twice in the last 10 days. Like we were driving down the road. She goes, your dad's going to call. I never talked to my dad. And what happens, like 20 seconds later, my dad calls.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. Very cool. And so like, do people, I mean, I know you said it's a little behind the times there, but at the same time, there's got to be some deep rooted stuff just in the land, just in the history and the culture, like that's maybe not detectable from the West, you know, but so there's got to be like some really powerful spiritual energy, not just that needs to be aligned, but also that's, you know, waiting to come out. Do people, I know you're in a small community, but is there anybody out there locally that you can connect with, or is it all online? You can.
No. There's lots of people here.
Wow.
A lot. I mean, there's a lot of shamans. So shamanism is a big thing here.
Really?
And it's still very much, it's kind of it's almost like the deep web. Everyone is connected, but it's not so kind of visible in the kind of the standard reality.
Yeah.
But especially where I live, because in 2020, I decided to move away from the big city. So I was living in Istanbul, and I'm now living in a tiny little village on the Aegean coast. And I live about 500 meters away of one of the oldest protected ancient sites here. And so there is, you can say it's like a Stonehenge of Turkey.
Really?
Yeah. And so there is some very interesting stuff going on.
500 feet you're from this place? It's like in your bedroom.
Yeah, you cannot imagine.
It's probably like a super cosmic highway over there.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, the energy here is incredible.
So I would imagine that place that you're talking about, just in and of itself, probably pulls people in, you know, whether they know it or not. So what's it like? Just like, you know, you get out of your house, walk 500 feet, and you're in the middle of a Stonehenge type of atmosphere. What's that like to be that close?
It's pretty awesome. I spend a lot of time there, and you know, I felt this real deep kind of quest to reconnect with nature and to reconnect with this site. And so, in fact, I even had it tattooed on my arm. That is how connected I feel with this place. And so it brings me a lot of wisdom, and it brings me a lot of clarity as to where I am and what my journey is in this life. Yeah. And I'm sure it does the same for others that are attuned to it. I know it does it for my daughter.
Really?
But there's a lot of people that come here and don't necessarily understand why they're here or why they feel so at home or so good here.
Yeah. So some people have talked about, you know, in a different way than they used to talk about, oh, I was this in a past life, or I was that in a past life. More like little snippets coming in, which for me, you know, and for some people I've talked to, it's been if they're out on the land or they're traveling, you know, people call it grid work. Have you had any type of like, you know, like I've been here before, you know, kind of thing? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I'm very connected to this place. So, it feels very good to be here at this moment in time. It was definitely a conscious decision to move back here and to be here and to spend my time at this moment in time here.
And so what about your daughter? Do you talk chakras, mantras, galactic. You do?
Yeah.
Is it something you had to educate her on, or was she one of those
No.
kids that say things like, "Hey, mom, by the way, I was a architectural engineer on Sirius B."
Yeah. She knows things. And
Yeah.
so it's very interesting because we kind of get to play with that, but it's nothing that I've ever forced, or, I don't sit with her and teach her things. It's really, if things come up with her naturally, then we talk about it, but it's never something that I initiate or bring up, because I'm very careful not to influence her in any way and to let
Yeah.
her have her own journey. So, but yeah, she's pretty grounded, but she's also very, very much connected to everything she's been before.
Wow, that's fascinating. And
Yeah.
you're hearing more and more, families, units even. Like I know some people in Montana, Angela Joel, she comes on here. Her and her husband came on, and they've got 3 kids like that. And they live on
Wow.
7 acres, and they grow conscious food. Like the whole family's lit, right? And you hear more and more about that, those types of things. So it's
Yeah,
becoming,
yeah, she's definitely, it's not something she discusses with other people. And so she's also told me not to talk to other people about it, because it is kind of, the whole spiritual world is still a little bit frowned upon with like the Turkish side of the family.
yeah,
So yeah, she keeps that kind of quiet, but that's fine.
yeah, yeah. Like when she brings people up, brings friends over, don't let them know how weird you are.
Yeah.
My kids would be like, don't come in, just leave us alone. Don't tell
Yeah,
them
I
about
think that's a
Soulogy.
universal thing.
That's what they'd always tell me. Don't tell them about Soulogy. This is back in the early days. Don't tell them about Soulogy, Dad. I mean, it's cool. We like it. We believe in you, but don't tell our friends about it. Yeah.
Well, with her friends, for example, she does things like tarot reading and angel card readings and stuff. And so
God.
that's like her party trick with her friends. So she's pretty open about those kind of things. But
So,
yeah, when it comes to the Turkish family and the in-laws or the ex-in-law, she keeps it very quiet.
Yeah. Well, so she's indoctrinating her friends. She's just doing it in a very subtle way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So what does 2021 look like to you? What do you have any plans? Anything you're going to get into? Anything you're feeling like with these expansions, especially like this whole thing with the masculine and the feminine, like which you've actually embodied, right? And then of course
Yeah.
with the kids coming in and bringing their frequencies.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling a lot more balance coming up between the masculine and the feminine. And I feel that, there's lots of individuals that I can see now that are finding their own balance in themselves within their inner masculine and femininity. And so I see a lot of people, not just women, but also men here, starting to find their own voice and go into their own power. And so what do I see for 2020? I can only talk locally because I really don't connect with the news or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I see a lot of trauma still being processed and coming up, and people and couples and men and women trying to find balance between them. But for me, the future looks very bright.
Yeah. Feels good. It feels good, doesn't it?
It's very good.
It's like it's so crazy because everything is it moves so differently. Even like 2020 was pretty, fast, slow.
Yeah.
Energy's down. Something's confronts you. I mean, it was just like boom. But now it's literally like Morgan did a channel the other night when we went to bed, and it was talking about the importance of integration. And I was like, yeah, because we were kind of integrating. We'd went on a trip, and then some other things happened, And then I realized, wait a minute, you were disintegrating, then you got hit again, and now you're integrating again. It's like that. Like you could have 3 bombs dropped on you in a day and have 3-hour integration period in the same day. And it's like what you would have done over 3 months or 3 weeks last year. You know? It's crazy.
I mean, something I have noticed for me personally is that my reality and my life is very much slowed down, but I see people around me moving very fast. So it's kind of, I know we're all on the same timeline, but the experience of time itself has completely changed for me. And I see people also coming into my home or coming into my space, and I see them slowing down when it's like I'm in this kind of time bubble where things are just much slower and much more calm and peaceful. And so I see people really come into that and literally do this. And yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know how you're experiencing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, similar. You know, like I think. Okay, so I like what you said. So you have this bubble or this field of energy that's yours, or if you have a partner and you're connected, you have this space, and you're your own protection, you're your own power, peace of mind, and you kind of guard that. Like, I don't mean guarded like, burn sage and all that. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but it's different than that. It's more about like what you said in your journey where you took responsibility for everything to include, the experience of the relationship. And even though you might have looked like, the victim, and you probably were, you still took responsibility for everything. So that changes, that supports and upholds your field. And so you got to, that's when you were saying that, I was thinking about that. Well, what's this going to look like? You got all these little bubbles. Nobody infringes on anybody else. Yeah. And even if you try to, because you're not at the same frequency, you just kind of go away. So I can see that. And I also see where, of course, Morgan and I, we talk about this stuff every day, every night. And as much as we're together, we're different as well. I mean, these are what a lot of these couples are. It's all about polarities. And but one thing, she's really good at, her and some of her friends, is talking about things and talking them through and understanding them. And sometimes I can get stuff from that, and sometimes I just have to, I don't know how you would put it, but like trust the energy. Like I get more out of you and I sitting here and the importance of we were brought together for this moment with all our friends. And there's something to be said for that beyond the stories and the narratives. Yeah. But, everybody's different. Everybody puts it, processes different. But I guess the bottom line is what you described at the top of the show, which is each one of us standing in our power. And once you learn how to do that, then you start to spread it out a little bit. It starts to get bigger. Like they talk about your heart, how your heart actually projects like 8 feet out. And then the other exciting thing is when you see the organic collaboration and co-creation, like you with your daughter, you with your ex-husband. Yeah. And even the women that come up to you and have questions. I mean, it's a contagion. It's a real virus. Yeah. It's a real one. Yeah. And it won't be stopped.
No. And I love what you're saying. I've definitely felt less need in my connection with other people to constantly share stories or to constantly be talking and communicating, but to just be present with each other and just enjoy each other's energy and company rather than the need to kind of give subtitling to that.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, I'll say it this way. I have a friend that I grew up with that from a spiritual level, I always knew there was something going on. Right. And so I lost touch with him. I hadn't spoken to him. I probably hadn't spoken to him like in, say, 12 years. Mm-hmm. And he hit me up and and we just had a couple of conversations. In the last conversation we had, he goes, "Hey, do you remember when we were 16, 17, we used to drive around in your truck and we would drive all over the place and we would go to the lake, we would go here, go there." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Do you remember that a lot of the time we wouldn't talk?" And I said, "Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be." And it was so interesting having that conversation with him about way back then. And he's not in the light worker circles. He's actually very conservative, very much a Christian, adherent, but that he actually got that. He remembered that's what he remembered was the silence, the allowance, right? Letting the energy speak and letting the energy just be. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is part of what we're working out. Of the many things we're working out is how do you behave? How do you act? You know what I mean?
Or how
Like,
do you not act?
how do you not act? Yeah. Or when somebody says something, do you have to say something? Or I love what you said about, because I've learned this from Morgan, and unfortunately in the early days, I was the one that was getting it, but that whole thing about just standing there and letting it come right through you. She calls it a rubber band. Like if you don't hit the tennis ball back, she says, then the rubber band goes back.
Yeah.
The energy goes back to them, and it's not on. And it's true. It's really true. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just respecting your space, and really you're respecting the other person too, because we're not helping anybody if we take on their shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Although it's been a while since we talked, a lot's changed. So much has changed.
Yeah, I think it literally feels like several lifetimes ago that we had our first chat. So much has changed in the world, collectively, personally.
Well,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Say that again. I'm sorry, you cut out.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
No. Well, I think the great thing about what's happening too, or one of the great things that's happening, is all the connections are starting to occur, right?
Yeah.
And we used to be like, okay, Anouk, we got to go meet, we got to do this, we got to build that, and it's not like that. It's just more like it's just kind of happening, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really big thing too, because people have been talking about this for 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. There's going to come a time when, this is going to happen. There's going to be a great divide. There's going to be people, being put to work. They're going to be needed for people that aren't awake, or, all that stuff. It seems to be coming out. And the other thing too, I don't know how you feel about it, but like everything that we're doing now, it used to be like in the old way. Maybe it was because we were shadowed. We would take an initiative. We would take steps in with pure intention and get splashed on our face. What the hell is going on here? But now it looks like everything is being reciprocated, right?
Yes.
Like you don't get anything for free, but you're getting, there's, like even what you said about the speed of manifestation, like instant manifestation, like how you're getting something and it happens where it used to take a lot longer and now it's happening right away. I mean, these are the kind of things that are actually normal that we're going to have to adjust to, right?
Well, I mean, everything just flows, and when it doesn't flow, it's not supposed to happen. It's so simple. And so, if the energy, if it flows and it's reciprocated, then that is where you automatically go. I mean, I definitely don't use my brain or my mental plane anymore in my decision making. I just go with what feels right and what flows. It's so simple.
Yeah, that's right. Because like where we're at now, to me, it's feeling. It's feeling. Morgan always says, look, I know when to do something because my whole body lights up.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, you know what? That, and then of course, all that chatter has, for me anyway, and I see a lot of people, it's kind of gone away. It's not gone. It's not gone, but it's not like the loud voice it was.
Yeah.
And then of course the brain thing, don't ask me what I did this morning because I can't tell you. Like the brain's is like, I'm sitting here going, so what is the brain now? Like, what is that for now? Right? I'm, literally, if I don't write down what I need to pick up at the store, which might be 4 items, I'll miss one every time. Or I'll walk upstairs to get something. I'll forget, why did I walk up here?
Yeah.
So that part's, I think that for me, as I'm doing this and watching other people, maybe the biggest challenge is getting used to what is normal, getting used to our natural state.
Yeah, and I don't think we're there yet. I think we're still very much in this transitional period, but I'm liking it. I'm really embracing it, and I would call it pregnancy brain. I remember I had this when I was pregnant. And I mean, there's definitely still the occasional chatter going on in the background. It's not functional, and it doesn't grab my attention anymore.
Yeah. God, we've done 2,650 shows or something, and what's it going to be like in 2,600 more? 2 people just getting on the screen and just staring at each other, right? I mean, like
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I think that will be perfect.
But seriously,
and everyone takes from that what they need in that moment, rather than constantly being pushed with all this information.
Like with us trying to convince who we are or what we think, and it's like looking at a painting, 10 different people getting 10 different things, because that's really how it happens, and none of them are wrong.
Exactly. And everyone just receives their own download for whatever they're ready for at that moment in time.
So it's so sweet talking to you. I appreciate it. It's good seeing you, and I wish you and your ex and your beautiful daughter the best. And if your daughter ever wants to come on with you, let me know. We'd love to ask her. Ask her if she wants to come on with all the crazy people like her mother. You take care.
Thank you so much. It's been so good. Lots of love to you.